Lots of players and parents have really serious fear about sports injuries, and they can become so extreme that lots of times it causes a ton of anxiety. But do sports injuries really ruin most athletes' careers? The answer is usually no. Most athletes will not suffer an injury so catastrophic that it requires surgery and significant time away from the game. Most injuries will heal with time and physical therapy, and players will be back on the field or back on the court or back on the track in a reasonable time frame, usually like 4 to 12 weeks, something like that. And often they'll make really positive changes that will help keep them healthy in the long run. But there are a lot of athletes, including myself, who do have to get surgery. I had 2 elbow surgeries. Two was not fun, and it took over a year for me to come back from both of them. So there's a really heavy physical and mental and emotional toll that comes from that. But would I say that those 2 elbow surgeries and the multiple years that it cost me ruined my career? Definitely not. Did it change the course of my career? Definitely. So there's always a double edge to it, but let's talk about some of the timing issues because that's one of the big things that's really hard about many injuries. So look, there's never a good time to get injured. That's just number one. But the worst times to get injured are when you're in a transition period where you need recruiting help, right? So say you're a senior in high school and you miss your entire senior season with an injury. That's a really tough thing to come back from. But as I said before, that's typically not a career ruiner if you're a good player and you had legitimate talent to play the college level anyway. What will typically happen is you won't get your first choices of colleges, unfortunately, but you'll probably get a chance to go play at a junior college or a smaller school and develop, and then maybe transfer to a bigger school, a place that maybe you would have settled had you not had that major injury. So again, you might have to go through the back door a little bit, maybe through the back alley to try to sneak in. Whereas if you hadn't been injured, maybe you got to walk right down the red carpet and go through the front door. But there's still a path to where you want to go, even with some injuries. For me, I blew out my elbow as a redshirt junior in college, which was my 4th season. And that was a couple weeks before the Major League Baseball draft. And there were literally 15 scouts with their radar guns pointed at me when I walked off the field, pointing to my elbow with an injury. So that was a huge derailment, again, to my career because it was at a critical recruiting time for me. And then I missed my entire senior season of college. So I was kind of done. I got spit out from my injury into the real world. But like I just mentioned, I found a back alley. I found a coach in independent baseball. I threw for them. I went to tryouts. I did all these different things because I was desperate to continue my career. So I was determined to not let my injury ruin me, even though the timing was terrible. It was terrible timing. So remember that whatever your fears are regarding injuries, yes, as a parent, you don't want to see your kids in pain, whether it's physical or emotional. And major injuries are both of those things. You don't want to see them in pain. I get that. But the thing that I will tell you from my injuries, and again, I had 2 major surgeries, it was a lot of time away from my sport, is that it's made me a much more resilient man. It's given me a much wider perspective on life. I have a lot of gratitude about the good things in life. When you have really hard times and you come back from them, you realize and you appreciate your health more. You appreciate the people in your life. You appreciate the little things that you took for granted. And that's a major positive that comes from being injured. While I really appreciate and understand so many parents, players, and coaches' fear regarding injuries, I often tell them that, look, your kid's not going to die. They're going to be okay. Maybe they need a surgeon to put them back together, but you know what? If they really love their sport, they'll be able to keep playing and they'll be able to figure out what their potential is. They'll be able to tap into their potential eventually. It might take them a little longer. They might have that circuitous route to the top of their mountain, but they can get there. They can come back from that surgery. And there's so many athletes in the Olympics and the WNBA, the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL. There are tons of athletes who have a significant injury history. Again, what I really appreciate about my own injuries, and I don't wish I had injuries. They are not good things. They are not positives. They're not blessings in disguise. Don't get me wrong. Injuries are not blessings in disguise, but they do force you to grow. They force you to grow as a person. They force you to look yourself in the eye and ask yourself, how hard do I work? How much am I willing to fight for this, for my dreams, for my sport? How much am I willing to put in? And every athlete who wants to come back, they step their game up. They step their preparation up. and they really step up their emotional and mental investment in themselves and in the sport. And that always comes with a big side dose of gratitude. You really appreciate coming back. You appreciate getting another chance to be out there in the sun with your teammates, right? While you should do everything in your power to prevent injuries and to have a great training routine that keeps you healthy, understand that injuries are not within your control. You can prepare you can prepare like a pro, but guess what? Lots of athletes in the Olympics, in every major sport, they get hurt too. So if it was all about preparation and routines, then none of the best athletes in the world would ever have injuries. But we know that's not true. If you or your son or daughter does end up getting injured, you're going to figure out how committed they are to their sport. They're going to have this great comeback journey that's probably going to make them a more resilient person in the long term. And that's okay. And that's a good benefit that can come from it. No, injuries are not a blessing in disguise. They are not good things, but you can make the best of them just like any other hard situation. All right. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below. Check out my mental skills book, which you'll find in the description, called This Slump Shall Pass. It was written for athletes of all sports and all ages. And I'll see you here in the next video.